Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here today, and I am super excited about our special guest. I'm Meg of megburtontudman.com, and you are in the exact right place if you are seeking confidence in your own skin. I'm so pleased to welcome my friend and yoga colleague, Lynne Staropoli Boucher. Lynne, it is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Meg. I'm so happy you asked to hang out with me.
Oh, thank you so much. So friends, Lynne is a yoga teacher and coach. She's also the founder of Yoga Revolution and the co-founder of the Rochester Yoga Service Network. So she is doing some really exciting things in the yoga community. What I love about Lynne is that she is so skilled at fostering leadership and strengthening team cohesion. Those are some hallmarks of her work, both on and off the mat. So if you happen to catch this and you're not a yogi, don't turn it off. This is going to be a great conversation that is so much more than just the practice of yoga as you unroll your mat. So stick with us because there's going to be some really great content. Lynne and I have been emailing and chatting a little bit about the theme of feeling confident in your own skin. And so much of what has come up already is so empowering, and I can't wait to share it with you today. So Lynne, again, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. I love talking about all this stuff, and I find I'll learn from you, and you'll spark things I say I didn't even know that I would think of them that way. So I love this organic conversation.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. So I want to start because I was super intrigued when you emailed me and said, I can't chat right now because I'm on my way to a National Yoga Service Conference. And I thought, that sounds amazing.
Yes.
So what was your big takeaway from that conference? What did it spark for you?
Oh my goodness. I'm so full. Can I backtrack and start with how I started going to that conference?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. Because it was 6 years ago. I was just finishing my yoga teacher training. My yoga teacher was and is and always will be Amy Connors.
Yes. One of mine too.
So I thought so. So many of us are lucky to have her wisdom. Yes. I call her our yoga bishop in Rochester.
Yes, I love it.
So 6 years ago, I was finishing my yoga teacher certification, which I loved. It was so meaningful for me. I was eager to talk about issues of justice and service, and couldn't figure out where in Rochester people were making the connection between yoga and service and justice. And right around then, luckily, there was a national movement that just had a critical mass and create the first ever National Yoga Service Conference. So a month after I graduated from yoga teacher school, I got to go to Omega Institute in Rhinebeck to the National Yoga Service Conference. And it was 150 people from around the country, many of whom have been doing this yoga service work for 10 years, 20 years. And they helped make these amazing connections between, what I found to be so meaningful in yoga and thinking out how can we connect that with people who wouldn't have access to that kind of service and haven't been able to get to yoga. So people who are doing yoga with at-risk kids, with in jails, with people who are dealing with domestic abuse, eating disorders, all different special populations. So that first year I went alone to the conference and I was so blown away. I knew that in future years, I just wanted to bring everybody back there. So for the past 6 years, each year I've gone and I've brought a bunch of people with me. And this year there were 10 yoga teachers and yoga students from Rochester.
That just gave me chills. I got so excited.
I know. It's so great. It's been amazing. So much of the conference, it's a very challenging conference. It's not easy. It's not all like, oh, let's just love each other. Actually very challenging about what are my privileges? What are the ways I've benefited from the power structures? Share the privileges and power that I have, and how can we work together to try and make yoga and meditation, these beautiful healing arts, more accessible to people who don't have access to them. So it's been an amazing journey. And now we have 10 Rochester people who are on fire from this conference. And luckily, when we come home, we have this Rochester Yoga Service Network that you mentioned. And we will be inviting and gathering people on June 10th to come for another gathering where we can share about the conference with everyone.
Perfect. That's amazing.
Yeah, that was a long story, but
it's helpful for sure. And it's interesting how you got into it, because I think there's probably a lot of areas across the country, maybe just some of the smaller markets, where there was, and maybe still is to an extent, a disconnect between the yoga piece and the service and justice piece. And I think there's such a natural fit or connection between those two areas that it's, a disservice really to not bring those two together.
Yes. And one way I describe it, Meg, when I was creating my website last year for Yoga Revolution, I had to try and think, like, what are the most important stories of ways of describing yoga? And it relates to the yoga service for me, because the way I think of my experience of yoga, like, think of yoga, that's a very solitary thing. It's a very individual thing. But I love to describe, like, for me, the yoga on the mat has helped me get in touch with myself internally and tune into this, like, deeper part of me, like the of love and light inside me. And I think for some people, that's kind of the end of the story, that, like, yay, I feel centered. I can go back to living my life in my own independent way. But I think the most amazing part is the next part, where I call it, like, the paradox of going from solitude to solidarity. So I go inside myself. I feel this sense of light and love and self, like the best in me. And surprisingly, like, just when I think I'm, like, all alone is when I realize that I'm connected to everyone. Instead of being alone on my yoga mat, I suddenly feel like, oh, like, I'm breathing just like everyone else is breathing. And then I feel this sense of, like, we're all connected. And for us in yoga service, that's the magic. Like, if I realize we're all connected, then I care about, like, who's included, who's not included, who's got the power, who's got the money, who's got the good schools, the safe neighborhoods. Like, my yoga practice leads me to solidarity, which leads me to want to work for justice,
Yes, that's so powerful. And how great for you to be able to enter that space with that feeling already, right? I mean, we can connect a lot of times through not so positive ways, but your point, being centered and knowing that everybody breathes, and knowing that we have so much more in common than not. And then leading with that kind of, like, heart forward, full of love. That's so amazing, because you're connecting with people on such a higher level, regardless of where they're coming from, what their background is, what their experience has been. There's always those threads that can tie us that are empowering and positive.
Exactly. Like that human side of us, just connecting with our own humanity and our own vulnerability, like the best and worst of us. I feel like yoga brings out the best and the worst of all of us and helps us to just deal compassionately. And I know you've talked about this a lot too. The more we learn self-care and self-compassion, practice and foster that for ourselves, and then that just leads us to being more practiced at being compassionate towards others, caring towards others, and that changes the whole cycle,
It does, absolutely. It changes it dramatically. So that's a perfect segue. What do you do for yourself, or what do you encourage your students to do to cultivate that self-love and self-compassion? Because I feel like for women especially, that's really hard for us, and that doesn't come naturally to all of us.
Yes. And a lot of my yoga years, all of my first 5 years teaching yoga was at Nazareth College, where it's predominantly women. We would have the chapel full of beautiful young women who I know are struggling with body image from abusive situations and, so many ways hurting in their body. So for them and for me, I really have just tried to foster a sense of, like, changing the lens, having this critical lens. Like, I always imagine I can hear the voices in their head. You're not good enough. You're not this enough or that enough. And I really try and foster for them and for myself this sense of acceptance, of compassion. I sometimes have people think about, I kind of created this meditation where I have people think about like, think of the people who adore you, like the people who love you, whether it's family or friends. They look at you, they see the good in you, they adore you. And could you like borrow their glasses for a second? Like, could you take those lenses and look at yourself through the lens of seeing the good, seeing the caring? And that's really, I've tried to have my teaching especially be so assuring, so affirming to people. I give a lot of options, and I never want people to feel like I couldn't do the thing or have yoga be one more thing that I don't feel good about myself, you know? And I feel like the students have kind of taught me how to teach that way. Yeah. So happy. Just a couple nights ago, I was teaching a class through MVP Insurance, and everyone in the circle was sharing how yoga has been helpful to them. And one of the women said, yoga is so great because in yoga, I'm always good enough.
Yes. Oh, I know, right? My job is
I was so happy to hear that. Yeah. And I guess I jumped more to the teaching part first. And so for myself, I also, I've been so blessed by affirming people in my life, just from my parents. And I have 5 brothers and sisters. We're very, very close, Staropoli family. I live next door to one of my sisters. We all live near each other. And I just was brought up with so much affirmation, support for myself. So I think that's been part of how I've learned how to be positive and practice ways that will help me feel that I am accepted, that I am loved. Like when I'm surrounded by people who love and accept me, almost more than I love and accept myself, you know, that's just an amazing blessing. And now I try and be that for other people, you know, for the students in my class. Like, I know you're so critical of yourself. I know you're so judging. You can feel from me this unconditional positive regard, trying to love them up, just trying to affirm and support. So it's all part of my like giving and receiving, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. There's something so powerful about not only giving it, but cultivating it for yourself as well. And I think there's a really nice kind of give and take in a very positive way when you're able to lead from that place.
Yeah. And I think that's why we yoga teachers and meditation teachers and Reiki practitioners and all, we all need to walk the talk. You know, we need to do our own practice. Yes. I'll teach and share what I can, but I'm struggling with the same things my students are struggling with. So keeping up with my own practice is really important. And that's evolved a lot for me, Meg, because I'm an athlete. Like, I came into yoga very slowly. Like, to be honest, I don't always confess this, but for the first 10 years of my connection with yoga, I would go to one yoga class a year. I'd roll my eyes and be like, I'm so bored. I want to go back to playing sports. And then I would wait another year and go back. Very slow to come to yoga. Once I fell for yoga, I finally started learning that the being could be just as meaningful as all the doing that I was used to doing. Yeah. Lately, I've shifted even more. So I went from like wild sports, which I still do.
Yeah.
Yoga to active yoga, and then to a little bit gentler yoga. And then lately, it's meditation that has won me over. Like, I've finally learned how to appreciate the meditation side of things. And the latest edge for me. And I'm sure there will be, you know, more and more edges, but that's for me. It's good. It's hard.
It's so good. I love too. And I think this is so important that it's okay for it to change. Like how you come into, whether it's yoga or meditation or mindfulness, or even maybe at a higher level, self-love and self-compassion, how you come in doesn't have to be where you are for that whole journey, that it can ebb and flow. And not to say that you'll never go back to something that worked for a while, but that it's okay to experiment and to shift and to let go of what maybe no longer serves you and to embrace something new that does.
I love it. Yes. And trying new things. That's been a very big part of my journey. I do acro yoga, which is acrobatic yoga where we play on top of each other. And fun. That's taught me a lot about just constantly stepping into my comfort zone, you know, I haven't tried this before. I'm scared. I literally don't know if I actually want to try this because I'm scared. And doing that so many times has fostered, like, when I'm scared, I just give it a try. You know, I might decide never to do that again, or I love it. But I really encourage people to just to try different studios, different ways of practicing either yoga, meditation, Reiki, any of these ways of, and even a big part for me too, Meg, that I would be remiss if I didn't mention, is just being outdoors. I'm a big fan of outdoor therapy and nature therapy. And so for me, I just really encourage for myself and other people just to try new things, go new places. It's so good for the mind, the body.
All right. So for those watching who are not that embracive of trying something new, where there's that fear that's coming up and it's, I may not be, happy or content or satisfied where I am, but I know this, and there's comfort in the knowing. So what would be a suggestion or a tip around, I'm thinking mindset, but there may be another direction that you take it in to start to get comfortable with just trying it, knowing that you don't have to stick with it if you really don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
What can we do to help cultivate that that intention to try?
Sure. One phrase that I've loved over the years is this sense of curious exploration.
Yes.
Oh, in a sense, and I know you've talked about that too. For me, that phrase, especially the two of those together, curious exploration, just even if you don't want to, you're not up for trying anything yet, seeing if you can foster this sense of intrigue or wonder. I don't know if I'll ever do that, but maybe I'll go watch or talk to somebody who has done a certain thing.
Yeah.
And notice what you're drawn toward, what you're pulled toward, We've learned a lot from Rumi about that, drawn, like noticing what you're being drawn to. I think that sense of curiosity. I also try and help people remember something that they enjoy and love now, and how to try and remember before you try that, like the first time you were like, I don't know if I'm going to try it, and help them remember that there were times in their life, in a new relationship, a new house, a new job, try and remember back to, like, you were scared, you didn't know if you wanted to do it, and remembering that you took that brave step and noticing how that changed your life. I think sometimes that can remind people, you've already done this.
Right.
There were times when you tried something, you'll never do it again. But you can remember, and I think that's kind of confidence building, to remember the things you're very comfortable with now used to be unfamiliar to you, used to be scary to you. Mm-hmm. Remember back to, even see if you can prompt that visceral feeling of when you were a little nervy to do that and you still did, and it opened doors for you that now are your life, Right. I think sometimes I like to remind people of what they've already accomplished.
Yeah, your track record.
Into the next horizon, Yeah.
I think that's so cool too, to consider things that may be totally different from what you're considering trying. So, the new house, the new job, the new relationship, maybe this is something completely different, but to apply those same skills because they're yours, they're intrinsic to you, and being able to just apply those to everything, within your life is so powerful.
Yes. I sometimes think I'm a very, I tease people a lot and playful in my approach a lot. But one thought that I sometimes have with people is, listen, if your life is perfect exactly how you want it, don't change a thing. Change a thing, You don't need to hear any challenge. If you want things to continue exactly as they are, do more of the same. You're fine. You don't need to try anything new.
Right.
If you maybe dream or hope or wish for more, maybe there's some kind of shift or openness to change that you might make, because the same old is going to bring you the same old. So sometimes I will give people that little tease. Yeah.
I love that. It's perfect though. But I think too, on a serious note, I love the playfulness of that, but it's applies. If things are working, keep doing what's working.
Oh, yes,
Like if
yes,
you've got things that, I'm humming along great when I do A, B, and C, then absolutely, those should continue to be part of your habits and routines.
Yes, and speaking of which, Meg, I love helping for myself and other people, just noticing patterns.
Yes.
Sometimes maybe people journal sometimes, that helps bring this out. But maybe whether you write it down or not, just starting to notice, what are the things that I do that leave me feeling depleted, energized, just noticing.
Right.
Noticing the things. Where am I? Who are the people I'm with? When I, on the other hand, feel energized, feel grounded, and helping people notice those patterns. Sometimes we get in habits of like, I hang out with the same old people or I do the same old things. But helping people bring, and that's, for me, this is what yoga's brought me, just this consciousness of noticing patterns.
Yes.
And it's really helpful for me. Like, once I notice consciously, like every time I'm with those friends, I feel like crap about myself or like I'm depressed about the world. When I'm with these people or doing this thing, I really notice a shift. Like, I think helping people notice those, even asking yourself that question.
Yeah.
So that throughout your day and night, you can even notice, is the thing I'm doing helping me feel up or down?
Right.
And helping people put those patterns together can be really empowering, I think,
Yes. So empowering. And I love to pull back your note about the curiosity piece.
Yeah.
Notice those patterns from a place of curiosity,
Yes.
not from a place, and I know you're on the same page with this, not from a place of judgment or criticism or for you or for the other people.
Exactly. Yes.
Others, but more from a curiosity standpoint. And then once you've noticed the habits, then it's like, well, is there something I can be doing differently when I'm with those people? Or is this just no longer a good fit for me right now?
Exactly. Yeah.
I love that. It's so empowering.
Exactly. I think so too. And I just helping people reflect on their life. I know for me, yoga class, in both taking yoga and teaching yoga, it allows for these questions for me to ponder bigger questions, because in our culture, we're all so busy.
Yes.
There's time to, not only can you not get everything done, but you don't even have time to process all the things you're running around doing. So I love that yoga offers these questions and time to kind of ponder, act, and help people make intentional decisions. A really big gift for me, and I hope for my students.
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely. I feel the same way. Knowing that, there is a lot happening for most of us, and we live in a time where things are very fast paced. How do you prioritize the activities and the habits that really allow you to take care of you so that you do feel confident, comfortable, empowered, free, all those good things?
Yes, yes. Well, I grew up in a family of like public servants and ministers. Like everyone in my family, like everybody's social workers and teachers. And my parents worked for the church for many years and did all this good community work. And there was such a high value placed on helping, serving, doing all the things for all the other people. It's been a pretty late lesson in my life to take care of myself better.
Right.
I think for a lot of us helper types, which I think so many people tend to be in a great sense.
Yes.
An early motivation, I think, is you can't keep taking care of all those other people if you burn out. So yourself, even if at first it's just a means to taking care of the other people, still good, way to start thinking about taking care of yourself. And it's been the last few years that I've done better at that, I think.
Yeah.
I was director of the Center for Spirituality at Nazareth College for 18 years. And I'm overworking, loving up those students. I mean, they're never-ending student needs. So I was there working too much. And it's been in recent years, the yoga has really helped me to balance better care of myself. And I definitely noticed that taking care of myself helps. I love the time off. And then I feel so much more ready to go back and serve without resentment,
Yes.
built up frustration. So for me, I have had to try and figure out what are the things that I love to do most. I love playing ultimate frisbee still. I love being outside and need my outdoor time. I love doing yoga, some kind of movement. So I've tried to really build those things into my calendar. And like from the start, not like, oh, if there happens to be a free hour, I'll do this, because you're not going to have some random free hour. Putting those building blocks into my calendar first and trying to make them like not negotiable, not like, oh, I'll take care of myself if there happens to be time.
Right.
Reminds me, Meg, of this exercise we do sometimes with students, that we have them come up with a list of things that they value the most. So, family, friends, self, all the things you love. I have everyone make a very comprehensive list of all the things you value the most. And then we have them look at their weekly calendar and compare, like, what is your weekly calendar filled up with? And how does that reflect the things you value or not? If you were to fill your calendar up first, and this is like dreamy. This is not always possible. We need to work, right? We need to get a lot of things done. We need to take care of the kids and the parents. But this idea of just comparing your calendar with your values, I found it a really helpful exercise in how could I have the way I spend my time better match the things I value. And people have found that to be kind of a helpful exercise,
So helpful. Yeah, I love that. I love that exercise. And I think too, even if it can't be a direct reflection of everything, it's that awareness piece that you brought up before, right? So, okay, maybe 1 week of the month, is closer to an exact match. And then maybe I know I've got, a lot of work responsibilities that come up, let's say the second week of every month. So while that probably is the time where you need more of those,
right, always.
there are 24 hours in the day. So, knowing that, okay, I'm working towards a more exact match, and I'm aware of, again, to your point, the things that aren't lighting me up, that aren't making me feel as good as I know I can feel. And then working towards more of a balance.
Exactly. And this brings to mind, again, I keep being challenged. I'm haunted in a really good way by the Yoga Service Conference. Conversations like this suddenly reminds me, like, there's so much privilege in this. The way I'm living my life right now, my college education allowed me this great job.
Right.
I was able to leave that, and now I work for myself as a freelance yoga coach. So I have more time than usual. And it just it reminds me of so many people who, because of poverty, racism, so many other issues, don't have these luxuries that I have.
Yes.
And then that's so inspiring for me, that I want to give my time. Like, I have so much privilege, so much freedom, almost in excess, that makes me feel responsible, really, because of this solidarity thing.
Right.
I actually have time to take care of myself. So many of my brothers and sisters and siblings of all different kinds here in my own town don't have that time or luxury. So how could I give some of my time, some of my privilege, some of my luxury for other people? And I love this stage of my life. I have been able to have time to take care of myself and then give some of my time. So like this past year in particular, working with the teenagers from Teen Empowerment and these teenagers I work with at Arnett Library every week, giving my time to them has been a really big part of this whole cycle of me realizing it's not just about, like, me taking care of myself leads me to notice other people don't have that luxury. How can I give or share?
Yeah.
Where the yoga service kind of comes full circle of me trying to use some of my time and privilege to help other people take care of themselves who have way less opportunity to take a break from work, take a break from kids, and at least offer some of that. Maybe that will make a difference in their lives. So that's been really important to me to
that's so important. And I wonder if that service piece Because I think in these conversations, you know, where it's clear there's a disconnect between you know, the privilege of one and the privilege of another. So for those of us who are, you know, highly privileged, there I think can sometimes be that piece of guilt that comes in. And I wonder if service is a way to help frame that. So yes, I recognize that I've been, you know, very fortunate, and that there, you know, have been a lot of things that are working in my favor that I really had nothing to do with. But that's not the case for everybody. So how can I kind of, I guess, give back? I mean, I think it is the service piece, but would you agree? What do you think?
Yes, I think it is a giving back. And I think it's, I think of it as a responsibility, you know, with this privilege comes responsibility.
Right.
And then I think sometimes it starts out almost a little like patronizing for us to go and help someone. But in time, I know from my experience, even if I've gone sometimes thinking like I'm the helper or I'm the giver, it has transformed. Like these youth that I work with have blown my mind and changed me and served and given so much to me. And I've become really humbled by it, giving and sharing with them. And then it feels more like a family responsibility rather than like, oh, I feel guilty, so I'll throw someone a bone, you know?
Right.
Become much more integrated into the way that I understand things. Yeah, working with these teenagers has just been amazing. What I've learned from them, what they've shared, very humbling. And it takes some stepping out of the comfort zone. It's been such a blessing. And it's really helped me to understand and feel more committed to, we're all in this together. And if people who live 4 miles away from my house, you know, are not getting the same luxuries I am, like I need to do something about it. So yeah, it's been a very meaningful part of this cycle of yoga, meditation, serving.
Yeah.
It's all been connected for me.
It is all connected. And I think that it goes both ways. You know, anytime that you are giving, there's always, like we talked about earlier in the conversation, there's always an opportunity to connect. And there's always an opportunity to learn as well. I mean, none of us knows it all. And I think, you know, putting yourself in situations and positions where you, yes, may be there, you know, initially to offer a service, but that there's so much more that can be exchanged.
Yes. Yes. And it affects not only how I spend an hour on Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, but my consciousness of the issues that these young people are dealing with, the violence in our cities, the poverty, that affects my activism, that affects the way I vote, affects, you know, my consciousness of our social, political. This is why for me, like yoga is connected to our social, political, economic world, because if we're connected to each other in this solidarity where no one's better than the other one, and we notice these unbelievable discrepancies, it should affect our politics. It should affect our social action in the world. That's been very influential for me. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an amazing ripple effect that happens, I think, when you allow yourself the chance to be surrounded by as many people as you can be and to connect, to really find that common thread. And know, to your point, you know, again, also in the beginning of the conversation, we all breathe. We're all human. That there's always some common ground there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think all of that, I know we've touched on confidence, I feel like throughout some parts of the conversation more overtly than others. But I think for me, it's so powerful to know that you can kind of step outside of what might be your everyday world and things that open up for you, and the way that your kind of internal dialogue can change through that awareness, through those connections, is so powerful from a confidence standpoint. I think both inside and out, but I mean, certainly when we talk about feeling confident in your own skin, giving back, being of service, not only to others, but yourself as well, is so empowering and so healing too. I think there's a great opportunity to heal what maybe some of the negative experiences have been for you before that moment where you made a conscious choice to do something differently.
Yes. And a phrase that someone just gave me, I wish I could remember. I think it was from Yoga Service Conference. It's such a simple phrase, but the idea of I'm still learning at the end of every day, because I get all obsessive over like what I would have done differently or what I wish somebody else did differently. But at the end of the day, being able to say, you know what, I'm still learning. And I feel like that's really related. Your focus on confidence has helped me to make that connection, that I'm confident, not because I know all the things.
Right.
Confident precisely because I know I don't know all the things. I'm because I've been so supported and affirmed in life until now. And I know that I've learned some good lessons and I've had shining moments, and I've learned the hard way and made so many mistakes and been so hurt and goofed up so many times. And my confidence comes from like, I'm still learning, and I don't feel like I don't have to wait until I know all the things to be confident, to assume that I'm going to do everything right in order to be confident. But I'm confident that like I've goofed up, I'm still good. Like I'm still learning. And I have people around me to love and support me no matter how many times I goof up, that I have a loving family and loving friends who will support me. That's really confidence building, that I'm still going to make mistakes. I'm still learning, and it's okay. I can try new things because some are going to work and some aren't. And at the end of the day, I've now done enough yoga and meditation to be able to at least work toward, letting it go.
Yes. Yeah. That I'm still curious. I'm still learning. A work in progress. And everything that has happened, good, bad, and ugly, up until now has helped to get me where I'm going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, Lynne, that's so empowering. I love that so much. It makes my heart feel super full.
Good. I just want to keep inspiring that in other people. And I always tell the students, like, I see you. I believe in you. Actually, Erin Garvin, I think one of our mutual friends, she often says about her yoga students, like, I see you. I see you. And I often think, like, I see the best in you. I see this amazing you. And I always want to convey that message of, like, if you could see yourself the way I see you,
right.
It's so much more beautiful than the judgments in your head and the critique in your head. And I hope that my teaching continues to be that kind of a message for people of feeling affirmed. I mean, that's what gave me so much confidence growing up. My parents, my family, so much affirmation, so much support. So I hope that I can do that for others and continue to have that circle go on.
I think that you are. It's so powerful. It's such a gift. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Lynne, tell us what is coming up next for you, for Yoga Revolution, for Rochester Service Network. What's on the
okay. Thank you. That's a big question. I'm very excited. The Yoga Service Network, I'll start with that, and then I'll go to Yoga Revolution. The Rochester Yoga Service Network, which we started 6 years ago, and it's meant to be a network of yoga teachers and yoga students. Many people are not teachers, people who are interested in yoga. And we're meant to be like a community that knows and cares about each other. And we come together 2 or 3 times a year to talk about yoga service opportunities. We love being matchmakers. Like, I heard this agency needs this and someone else wants to help out there. So we kind of matchmake people. And we really try and offer to each other this, I think it's a bit of an alternative message. Some of pop yoga culture is very like you and your yoga butt and your yoga pants, and that's the end, But Rochester Yoga Service Network is meant to be an alternative community of, hey, we're connected to each other. We're collaborating instead of competing. Mm-hmm. Try and know about each other, know about each other's projects. There's such a tendency in our whole culture to be competitive, to be independent, to be separate. And this network is meant to foster connection, foster community. So we have a big gathering on June 10th. And we'll be inviting the community to come together for that. We'll be giving details. Rochester Yoga Service Network is on Facebook.
Okay.
And also we have an email list. People can find me. I'll explain that in a moment too. So that's coming up in Yoga Service. And then my Yoga Revolution world, I'm very excited because we're coming into my favorite season, which is summer. I love the academic year. I do a lot of work on campuses. I'm at Nazareth College, Roberts, and I do a lot of work in the workplaces, and that's great, all academic year. But in the summer, I come alive, and I get to invite everyone out to my favorite places because I do yoga on the paddle boards at Big Creek.
So fun.
Yoga at Castaways on the lake with my friend Elisa Pena. And this year I'm doing a whole bunch of special events, yoga in the Pines at Cumming Nature Center. And we're doing yoga on the Sandpatch boat. So you go on a boat cruise and do a yoga class while you're moving on the water.
Oh, that's so wild.
So all of these really fun outdoor partnerships through True Yoga and Mercy Spirituality Center. We're doing an outdoor class every Friday.
Wonderful.
These things are, almost all of them are open classes.
Great.
Where you can just come to each one. And all of these people could find out about. My website is rockyogarevolution.com.
Perfect.
On Facebook and on Instagram, I'm Rock Yoga Revolution.
Wonderful.
Those are some of the things. I really just welcome people back to the earth, back to nature, and to each other in community.
I love that so
Celebration
much.
of life, yes.
Oh, so great. So we'll post all of Lynne's contact information in the description below. Lynne, anything else you want to add? I feel like there's so many great things that came up in the conversation and that are on the horizon for you. Anything else you want to add?
Thank you so much, Meg, for all of this. I guess just continuing to foster this sense of being connected to each other. In the yoga world, meditation, Reiki, really trying to build community and build collaboration, because our culture at large is always going to lean toward competition and lean toward isolation. So just a last word of encouragement for collaboration and knowing each other. I love that this whole series you're doing, it's a conversation, and these conversations and relationships really change things. So thank you so much, Meg. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Lynne. It's been such a pleasure. I have loved every minute of this. Friends watching, if you loved it as well, Lynne and I would be so grateful for a thumbs up, and even more grateful if you'd subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you as part of this community. I'll keep bringing on my favorite people like Lynne. We'll also have some guided meditations and some ways to reset your mindset as well. So stick with us. From my heart to yours, offering you so much love and light. Thanks again, Lynne.
Thank you, Meg. Take good care.
You too.